Imagine you are standing in charge of 10,000 soldiers. Across the valley, something terrifying appears. An enemy army of 50,000 soldiers is marching straight toward you. That means for every one of your soldiers, the enemy has 5. The ground shakes as thousands of feet move together. Dust rises into the sky. Your soldiers can clearly see the huge army getting closer and closer. Some of them are nervous. Some are scared. Because everyone knows one simple truth: in most battles, the bigger army wins. If you have 5 times more soldiers, you usually have 5 times more chances to win. So if you were the commander, what would you do? Would you fight directly and hope for a miracle? Or would you try something smarter? In this incredible moment from history, the smaller army chose the second option. Instead of fighting with strength alone, they used strategy, patience, and a clever ambush. And the result shocked everyone. Let's start with why the smaller army looked like it had no chance at all. In most battles, numbers matter a lot. More soldiers means more weapons, more fighters, and more people who can surround the enemy. Think of it like a big game of tag. If one team has 10 players and the other team has 50, the bigger team can easily surround and catch the smaller group. That's why generals in history tried to gather the largest armies possible before going into battle. But the commander of the 10,000 soldiers understood something very important. Battles are not only about how many soldiers you have. They are also about where you fight, when you attack, and how you surprise the enemy. So before the battle began, the commander carefully looked at the land around him. And he noticed something interesting. There was a long valley with hills on both sides. To someone walking through it, the valley looked normal. It looked like an easy road for an army to travel through. But the commander realized something the enemy didn't. That valley could become the perfect trap. If a large army walked into it, thousands of soldiers would be squeezed together in a narrow space. They wouldn't have much room to move. They wouldn't be able to spread out or organize easily. And soldiers standing on the hills above could attack them from both sides. So the commander started building his plan. First, he hid most of his army on the hills and behind rocks, where they could not be seen from the valley below. The soldiers stayed quiet and waited. From far away, the valley looked almost empty. But the commander knew the enemy still needed a reason to walk inside the trap. So he did something very clever. He sent a small group of soldiers into the valley where the enemy could see them. These soldiers pretended to be tired and confused. They moved around like they were scared and trying to regroup. To anyone watching from a distance, it looked like the small army was losing confidence and trying to run away. When the large army saw this, they became excited. They believed the smaller army was weak. They thought the battle would be quick and easy. And when soldiers think victory will be easy, they sometimes make big mistakes. Instead of slowly checking the area, the huge army rushed forward. Thousands of soldiers marched into the valley. Then thousands more followed. The army kept moving deeper and deeper inside. But what they didn't realize was that they were walking straight into the commander's trap. Once most of the enemy army had entered the valley, the commander gave the signal. Suddenly, loud horns echoed across the hills. Then something shocking happened. Hidden soldiers suddenly appeared along the ridges. Arrows, rocks, and spears began raining down from above. The soldiers inside the valley were packed tightly together. There were so many people that many soldiers couldn't even move properly. Some tried to lift their shields. Others tried to look for the attackers. But the enemy was everywhere above them. And because the soldiers were squeezed into the narrow valley, they couldn't spread out to fight properly. Some soldiers tried to run away. But running inside a crowded valley filled with thousands of people is almost impossible. Others tried to climb the hills to attack the hidden soldiers. But the slopes were steep, and the attackers were already waiting for them. Within minutes, confusion spread through the huge army. And confusion can be one of the most dangerous things in battle. Large armies are powerful, but they also have a big weakness. It takes time for commands to travel through thousands of soldiers. When something unexpected happens, people don't always know what to do. Some soldiers start shouting orders. Others start running. Some push forward while others try to retreat. Soon the army becomes messy and disorganized. That is exactly what happened in the valley. Within a short time, panic began spreading through the enemy army. When one group of soldiers ran away, others nearby followed. Fear moved quickly from one part of the army to another. Soon thousands of soldiers were trying to escape the valley at the same time. But the commander of the smaller army had planned for this moment. While the enemy was confused and scared, he gave another command. Fresh soldiers who had been hiding behind the hills suddenly charged downhill toward the trapped army. Now the enemy was being attacked from above and from the front at the same time. Imagine trying to fight while arrows fall from the sky and enemy soldiers rush straight toward you. The large army could no longer stay organized. Their formations broke apart. Groups of soldiers became separated from each other. And once the front line started collapsing, the rest of the army quickly followed. Some soldiers dropped their weapons and ran. Others pushed into each other trying to escape the valley. The huge army that had marched in with confidence was now completely overwhelmed. By the time the battle ended, the results were astonishing. The army of 10,000 soldiers had defeated an army of 50,000. News of the victory spread quickly across nearby lands. People were amazed. How could such a small army defeat such a huge one? The answer was not strength. The answer was strategy. The commander understood that fighting directly would lead to defeat. So instead, he changed the battlefield. He chose a place where the enemy's numbers would actually become a problem. Then he used surprise to create confusion. And once confusion spread, the larger army could not recover. Even today, military leaders study battles like this. They learn how clever planning can defeat larger forces. The ideas used in this ambush are still taught in military schools around the world. Surprise. Smart positioning. Using the land to your advantage. These ideas are powerful tools in any battle. But the lesson from this story is not just about war. It's about life too. Sometimes you will face problems that seem much bigger than you. Maybe a challenge looks too difficult. Maybe the odds seem unfair. But this story reminds us of something important. Winning is not always about being the strongest. Sometimes winning comes from thinking smarter than your opponent. The commander and his 10,000 soldiers didn't try to beat the enemy with strength alone. They used patience. They used planning. And they used the element of surprise. Because sometimes the smartest plan can defeat even the biggest army. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more incredible moments from history, make sure to like the video and subscribe. And if you think this battle was surprising, wait until you hear the next story where an even smaller group of warriors changed the course of history forever.